Welcome. Today's story is different than usual. It's a personal, deeply introspective look at a powerful scene from the third season of Playing Squid, in which a mother sacrifices what she holds most dear, her own son, to save him from spiritual destruction. This is not, however, a commentary on the series. It is a journey into the heart of the human soul, a journey into the knowledge that the real drama is not on the screen, but within us. Through the stories of life, through pain, humility and knowledge, together we will touch what is beyond the reason of the law of love that transcends logic and justice. If you seek silence, truth and inner strength, stay with me. I used to think the greatest suffering was death. But only in time did I understand that the real suffering is the death of the soul, its slow decay in hatred, in fear, in coldness without love. At that time, man still moves, speaks, breathes, but the light has gone out of his eyes. His decision comes not from life, but from the shadows. And that's why I was deeply affected by the scene in the third season of the show where a mother kills her own son to stop him from an act that would tear him from his soul forever. Watching her, I felt like I was looking in a mirror. Not because I've ever killed anyone, but because I've experienced firsthand how low we can sink when we start saving our lives by force. When we allow the principle of, it's me or him. That moment made me stop. In the silence, I thought back to my own past, to a situation where I too was faced with the choice of saving my life at the expense of another. It wasn't about my physical life, but about my position, my ego, my beliefs. I was then in conflict with a man who was hurting me, humiliating me. I had the opportunity to destroy him with words, with actions, with manipulation. And my whole inner world was crying out for justice. But I didn't really want justice. I wanted him to suffer. I wanted him to feel the same pain that my wounded self felt. I didn't do it then. I stopped, not because I was morally superior, but because I felt that if I crossed that line, it would change me. Forever. I would have killed something subtle in me. Something I can't name, but without which I'd never be complete. And that's what the mother was after. She didn't want to destroy her son. She wanted to save what was left of him, his ability to love. His ability to be human. When I thought about it, I realized that love often looks like madness. From the outside, it looks like betrayal, like weakness, like senseless sacrifice. But from the inside, it looks very different. Because love doesn't look for advantages. It doesn't ask, what's in it for me? It doesn't say, he didn't deserve this. Love gives because it can't do otherwise. Because by its nature it is a giver, not a judge. At that moment, when her mother reached for the knife, she did not feel hatred or fear. She felt that her son's soul was already on the edge of the abyss. And that if he jumped, there would be no turning back. The words come to mind. He who loves his son more than the truth will not let him perish, even if it destroys his body. The act was not a denial of a mother's love. It was the culmination of it. The most painful and the purest at the same time. In my spiritual practice, I have repeatedly encountered a paradox. That sometimes what appears to be violence can be the expression of the highest mercy when it comes from a complete absence of personal will. If one lets go of the desire to control, to judge, to punish and instead becomes an instrument of a higher law. But such an act is only possible if the heart is filled with love to such an extent that even the shadow of pride has disappeared from it. Sometimes when I pray, I don't ask for strength. I ask for purity of motive. Because the motive is the root. From a dirty root nothing bright will grow, even if the branches are covered with flowers. Outwardly, a man may do good, but inwardly he longs for revenge. At such times everything turns against him because he has broken the law of unity. In one situation in my life, I became ill shortly after breaking off a relationship with a loved one in anger. I told myself I was right, that I was right, but my body wasn't talking about right. It was talking about pain. It wasn't until I began to have honest regrets, not that I was bad, but that I had stopped loving, that my health began to improve. I realized that the greatest evil is not an injustice done to me, but when I allow that wrong to kill my ability to love. Similarly, I once faced a choice at work. I witnessed deception. I could remain silent and have peace, or I could speak up and risk losing my job. My ego whispered, shut up. Stay out of this. But the soul in me was calling, silence will change you. And you will never be the same. Finally, I spoke, and I did lose my job. But I got something more important back, a sense of integrity. Purity. The knowledge that I had acted not out of fear, but out of conscience. And that feeling is stronger than any external gain. When I look at the world around me, I see how often people act from levels of fear, pride, hatred. And yet they think they are saving their life, their family, their truth. But they're not saving anything. They're just postponing the inevitable. Because every decision from a low level of consciousness leads to loss. Maybe not right away, but sooner or later. Conversely, decisions from the level of love, even if they seem like a loss, are always a victory. Not for the ego, but for the soul, and that's the only victory that matters. Sometimes I imagine what happened to that mother afterwards, what her pain was like, her remorse, but also what her silence was like. The silence that comes when you know there's nothing you could have done differently. That everything was as it should have been, and that the truth that remained in him was stronger than death. It's written in the Bible, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." But what if he lays down his life for the soul of another? What if he sacrifices everything, including his role, his reputation, to protect another from himself? My faith is not dogma. It is a silent, inner assent to what is coming. It is a daily choice to look at the world through the eyes of love, even when everything in me screams, "Intervene. Defend yourself. Fight back." And it is when I let go of that cry that something in me brightens. It is not weakness. It's the power of silence. It's the power that doesn't push but carries. It does not accuse but embraces. Someone once said to me, "If everyone followed love, the world wouldn't work." And I replied, "That's why the world doesn't work." Today, I no longer believe in chance. I believe in the law of cause and effect. I believe that every action, thought, attitude is like a seed. And that we reap exactly what we sow, not sooner, not later. And if our lives fall apart, it's not a punishment. It's a correction, an attempt by the universe to guide us back into alignment with truth. That scene in the show is not fiction. It's a painting, a mirror, a challenge, and I'm grateful for it. Because it reminded me that true love is always willing to go to the edge. But it never descends from the level of the soul. And so I ask for one every day. To remember to love, even if it costs me everything. Because without love, none of the things we cherish make sense. Without it, we're just bodies afraid to die. But with it, we are souls learning to live. You may have just heard words that opened something inside you. Maybe they just left a silent imprint. And maybe it brought you back to a memory when you two stood on the border between pain and love, between pride and humility. Whatever the case, thank you for listening. Today, when the world is crying out for solutions, let us try to stop and ask, what is my motive? Where is my heart? Do I still love? Because it is in that quiet search that real change begins, not just in the world, but in us. If today's narrative resonated with you, I'd love it if you'd support it and share it further. But I'll be even happier if you carry it with you. Thank you.